getting sick this week. And I'm like, oh no, because you know what, that craziness out there that we're all worried about catching. And so I took 3 tests over a period of 3 days, and all of them said I didn't have it. And then I get here, and last night I take a shower, and I couldn't smell this. Hear the whole story before you get worried. I was like, I couldn't smell the shampoo, and then I got the conditioner out, and I couldn't smell the conditioner, and I grabbed the soap, and I couldn't smell the soap, and I started panicking. I was like, oh no, I just spent like 6 hours in a car with Josh, and I was on a plane with a bunch of strangers. I've ruined everything, and all of a sudden I realized I start reading the shampoo bottle, and it is odorless, and it's like, I got out of the shower, I grabbed my deodorant, and I was like, oh, we're good. All right. And of course, I could have just waited till I walked out of the hotel, and you know the smoke aroma that y'all have. And I was excited about being here. I was telling all my friends I'm going to Washington State, y'all, not D.C., Washington State, where there's wide open spaces and fresh air. And good news, you have wide open spaces. I didn't even see the mountains when I came in, you know. And this morning I walked out and I was like, oh, I forgot, you know, because I live in Indiana where it's flat. Like my dog ran away 2 days ago and I can still see her running. I mean, it's that flat. It's so flat, if you stare long enough and get good enough binoculars, you can see the back of your head. That's what I'm saying. Okay, that was a stretch, but I like telling that. All right. But I mean, it's so beautiful out here, and I know you get frustrated by I was listening to the radio, and I was like choking all day and like coughing all day, and I'm like, what's going on? And I turn on the Christian radio station in the car that someone loaned me, and he said, okay, you want me to stay back here? Okay. I went past the line, y'all. Okay, so I turned on the Christian radio station, and it said, you know, that there's the air quality is bad. You should probably stay at home. We're not staying at home today, are we? Like, the devil wants to stop everything, but he has no capability of doing that because we serve a God who is unbreakable. You know, as we start this idea tonight, as we sit here and think about this, and this first message is about fail forward. And I know you're thinking, no, Hoss, you're supposed to say fall forward. Listen, hear me out. We all make mistakes, don't we? How many of y'all have sinned in this room? Raise your hand. All right. Well, and those of you who didn't raise your hand, you just sinned. You lied. Okay, that's what I'm saying. And so when I'm thinking about, like, we make mistakes all the time. I mean, my father, I took him to the Dominican Republic on a mission trip with me. And my father has bad hearing because he stood next to a giant gun on a battleship or whatever it was. I know my brother here is the Navy guy. Whatever I say will be wrong. I'll say boat or ship, and it'll be the other one. I know. But anyway, because I wasn't in the Navy like this guy. But my dad was on, you know, this floating mechanism in the ocean. And it had giant guns on it, and they went off so he can't hear. Like, his favorite word is what? You know, that's what he says. Like, every time I say something. And I took him to the Dominican Republic, and I was like, Dad, we're handing out gifts. I've been 20 sometimes, and we hand out toys to little children. And I said, all you have to say, Dad, is Feliz Navidad. That's as simple as it gets. I said, your generation had a song called Feliz Navidad, right? You should be able to get this. And he says, I got it. I said, Dad, I don't think you do. He turns around and hands this gift to this child in this little village, and he says, Felipe is not your dad. Okay, I know that's not true, but it's hilarious. All right, listen. But he totally messed up the Feliz Navidad because he can only say what he heard, you know. And like my father-in-law, actually my brother, I have 2 father-in-law jokes. One's about my brother's father-in-law. He went to his house on Christmas, and he said, I got this new iPhone. He said, would you mind taking me to the app store so I can buy some apps? Isn't that brilliant? Some of y'all are just now getting that. I get it, all right? You don't go to an app store. My father-in-law messes up English. Like he said that he was a chaplain at this group in town, and they had this building. And I said, well, how's it going? He said, well, the building burned down. And I said, well, what happened? He said, I think it was arsenic. It's like, you poisoned the whole place? I don't know. And I said, well, what else is going on? He says, well, I got this rash on my wrist, but don't worry, I'm under doctor surveillance. Not sure that's the right word either. And I said, well, did they give you anything? He said, they gave me ornaments. And I was like, well, Merry Christmas. I don't have no clue. I have no clue. I was talking to a musician the other day, and he said that his 92-year-old mother was fighting him and saying, pulling the oxygen mask off of her face at the hospital, just wouldn't leave it in. He said, Mom, you need oxygen. And she said, I'm 92. I haven't needed oxygen up to this point, and I'm not starting now. We all make mistakes. We all mess up. But it's not about what you do wrong. It's what you do after you've done something wrong. Do you stay where you are? Do you stay broken? Do you stay like in this shameful area? That's what the enemy wants you to do. But God wants you to look at something you've done wrong and figure out a way to do it right. And I'm going to start with this. We mess up so many times. In Romans chapter 3, in verse 9, it says, what shall we conclude then? Do we have any advantage? Not at all, for we have already made the charge that Jews and Gentiles alike are all under the power of sin. Are you under the power of sin? You don't have to answer this question. Under the power of sin. Sin has a power. Where's the youth ministers at? Raise your hand if you're a youth minister. All right, so come on up here. Yeah, you go. Come on. What's your name again? Christian? I hope you are. Okay, so, I mean, he's a youth minister. He should be a Christian. I'm just saying, okay? Some of them didn't get that joke, but that's okay. It's a dad joke. I get it. I'll be 50 next year, so we tell dad jokes. So Christian is, in just a moment, don't say anything until I tell you, okay? You just, keep your eye on Christian. Christian, in a moment, is going to confess like the worst sin he's ever committed in his entire life. And then we're going to go around the room and everyone's going to confess. Y'all, I ain't doing that. I'm just messing with Christian, okay? Now, listen, Christian, this is my brother. I mean, he's a youth minister, but I was a youth minister for like 30 years. I know. Listen, we sin. We mess up. We just don't tell you, okay? You know what I'm saying? But no, we tell you. But listen, the truth is, the face that he makes of uncomfortable, the feeling of, I could have used any of you guys, anybody in this room, and said the same thing. And that's what's called the weight of sin. Like whatever we've done, it's like this weight on us. And if we, like the weight that our brother's carrying around all weekend, like this weight that we all have, right? Well, y'all may not know this about me. If you know me or seen me before, in 6 months or so, I lost 100 pounds. Now listen. I would love to tell you that I just quit eating bad stuff. I would love to tell you that I was running 5Ks every afternoon. But it was the medicine that my doctor put me on for my diabetes, and it just fell off. Wow. Like, where was that 20 years ago? I could have used it. You can go have a seat, Christian. Let me explain this. No, he stayed up there long enough. I mean, as long as I want him to. Whatever I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? He's not in trouble. But when I think about the weight of sin, I think about this journey I've been on for the last year. Last May, I filmed a comedy special that'll be released in the next couple of months. See how long it takes some of those things to happen? At that time, I weighed 400 pounds. And right now, I weigh 298. No, I just want to hear this. I see that special, the clips from it that they sent me. And I'm like, wow, where have I been? Now, I'm not standing on the fact that sometimes I forget that I've lost this weight. Like when I got on the airplane yesterday, I used to have to bring that little seatbelt all the way to the end and then take every air out and finally snap it in. And I was like, this time I was like, what? I wear my belt from 400 pounds still just to remind myself that this used to be like right here. Like I lost 10 inches in my waist, and I'm like, but here's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, compared to where I used to be, I mean, there's a spring in my step that I didn't have before. Why? Because the weight is gone. Now, this is not me saying, look how great I am. I already told you, I didn't go on some awesome diet and wasn't very strict and all. I mean, my wife was like, how often have you had a Snickers bar? It's like, well, how many days in a week? There you have it. Anyway, so I was like, but I wasn't eating much, and so all of a sudden it fell off. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. It was raining one day, and I got out of my car, and I was going to run to the grocery store. 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm running to the grocery store because that's the only time they sell sports cards at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, and because it's sold out in 5 minutes. But I'm running, and I remember for the first time in my life, and for the last like 30 years of my life or more, I'm running, and I was like, oh, I can run for one reason. The weight was gone. See, the weight of sin does the same thing to your spiritual walk. We don't even realize that we're carrying all this extra weight. Is there a guy, I won't ask a girl to do this, is there a guy in this whole room, is there someone who weighs like right at 100 pounds? Who, you do? Would you mind coming up here for just a second? I won't make you say anything or do anything. I'm not even going to pick you up, which would have been a nice illustration. Or let's just stand up at least. Can you do that? That's how much I lost. I lost him, is what I say. Like that, you can have see. But here's the point, like that weight is gone. And when you find Jesus and you look at the things that you've done, there's a weight on your heart. It's called shame and guilt. And it will eat at you. Right? We know that we have this sin. He says here that we are all under the power of sin. And we're going to unpack this one. Everyone is under this power. In verse 10, he says, as it is written, there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands. There's no one who seeks God. And I thought, well, I'm going to put this in just like, because, I mean, how many of y'all recognize that I have a little bit of an accent? Maybe a little one. Yeah, I've been called, since I got here, people are like, you have an accent. Where are you from? You know, it's like, you guys are the ones with the accent, is all I'm saying. That's all. I mean, in Kentucky, we don't sound like y'all. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. But I put it in Kentucky terms. Like this farmer from Kentucky would have said it like this one. No one lives right. No one gets it. No one seems to be even trying. I think that's what Paul's trying to get at here. He's like, you're not getting it. You're not trying it. No one is righteous. You're not doing the right things. You're not saying the right things. He's like, and everyone's guilty. So now what? Now what do we do? There is a weight of sin. There's a reality of sin. And the reality is we're going to face this the rest of our life. We're all going to face it. We're all going to struggle. We're all going to come up against sin, and we're going to go, how do I get out of this? But we live in a society right now that redefines everything to say things aren't sinful. And I'm not talking about any specific things, so nobody get all upset and say, horses, blah, blah, blah. Listen to me. We live in a society that also tells you this, that it's not your fault. I'm going to tell you, the Bible says something a little bit different. I don't say anything political. Like, I'm a comedian. I travel all over the United States. I've done comedy in 40 states and 2 other countries, and I don't tell any political jokes. I'm not trying to get political. I'm trying to get biblical. Listen, this is what I'm trying to do. Here in this, the reality is this. You're told that it's not your fault. You're told that it's only your environment. It's your upbringing. And I hear older people say it, I can't help it. That's the way I was raised. You can help it. Like it doesn't matter how you were raised. It matters what God is raising up in you that matters. And so we look at this idea. Look what James says. James has it all together when he says in chapter 1 and verse 13, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. So when you're facing sin and you're facing trials, God did not do that to you. Here's what James says did that. Who James says did that to you. And let me say this before we see this next verse. The devil didn't do that to you. You're like, wait a minute. We've been told the devil made me do it all our life. What does James say? Next thing, verse 14 says, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desires and enticed. Uh-oh. You mean I have to take responsibility for what I've done? Have you ever had a moment where you were like, okay, so I was in Colorado in the 1980s. Yeah, that's back in the 1900s for all y'all. And in I think it was like 1985, we're in Grand Junction, Colorado, where my grandfather lived. And if you want green grass in Grand Junction, Colorado, apparently you have to have this thing called a sprinkler system. And we were poor, so we didn't even know that thing existed. But when we were playing croquet in the front yard, I saw a sprinkler head, and I thought it was a croquet tee. So I put the croquet ball on the little sprinkler head, and I got that croquet mallet, that giant that looked like a hammer, and I reared back, and I was like, 4, and I swing, and I hit the sprinkler head clean off. And I was like, well, that one doesn't work. So I moved to the next one. And it was a little bit lower, so I'm thinking this is the right height for me. So I put that croquet ball on the next sprinkler head. 4, and I swing and knock the head off of that one. And then I hear from behind me, son, those words, like he didn't even want to try because I have 3 brothers. He would say everybody's name before mine anyway. So he just says son, and we know he's calling one of us, right? So he's like, son, and I turn around, and there's this moment where you drop the mallet. I didn't do it. Like, we don't want to take responsibility for it. Like, I want to blame my brother. He said it was, who swung the mallet? Who wanted to have the victory over that little croquet ball, huh? Me. What flesh was doing this? Me. No one makes you do anything. I used to tell that. I was teaching middle school in Texas. I was an 8th grade middle school teacher in El Campo, Texas. And I was a youth minister, right? Let me tell y'all, how many of y'all in 8th grade? Raise your hand if you're in 8th grade. Let's hear it. Y'all are evil. And I love you, okay? I mean, at the same time, I'm like, y'all are evil, but I love you, okay? But I remember in this, they always were like, well, he made me do it, or he made me mad. How many of y'all ever said he made me mad before? Right? Guess what? I got news for you. No one can make you anything. No one can make you mad. And no one can make you happy. No one can make you sin. The only person that can make you sin is you. When we see something in front of us and we're tempted, we have to stop right there in the thought process, not in the action. He says if your right hand offends you, what do we have to do? You guys can say something. Cut it off. If your foot offends you, what do? If your eye offends you, what do? Wow, that's an interesting order, isn't it? If your eye offends you, if your foot offends you, if your hand offends you, Look at that order. We see it, we get closer, and we do it. That's the process of sin. And every one of us do that. Every one of us we see something where we're like, I want to try that. And we see an example of remember the story when Jesus was in this man's house and they were preaching and he was preaching and teaching and everybody was so crammed in there that those people couldn't bring their friend who was laying on a mat and they couldn't get to him. It says because of the crowd they couldn't get to Jesus. And what did they do? You remember? Yeah, they tore the roof off. They're like, we're gonna raise the roof. That's not what they did. Okay, they lowered him through the roof, right? They tore across these tiles out and they lowered him down on a mat. It's like, can you imagine being there? Jesus is saying, and blessed are the poor and spirit, and there he is. And you're thinking to yourself, like, all right, what is he going to do? I know what he's going to do. He's going to make him walk. And that's not what he did at first. What did he do at first? He said, your sins are forgiven. And of course, if I'm on the roof and I just lowered my friend right through the roof and destroyed my neighbor's roof, I'd have been like, did he say sins are forgiven? Because I'm not carrying him home. And then you start thinking, well, what sin does a paralytic person commit? He didn't steal something. He didn't hurt someone. So where did it start? In his mind and in his heart. And it's where we have to stop it. When we're enticed, we have to stop it here. Because once it's in our hand, I'm going to tell you right now, you have to take drastic measures to make it stop. So let's rewind again to this thing that y'all all clap for me for. Don't clap again. I lost 100 pounds. But before I lost 100 pounds, I want to confess to you guys that eating, I didn't do that to survive. I loved to eat. And I can cook. And my wife is a better cook than I am. And I carry a debit card. And it just so happens that Pizza Hut accepts it. You can go every single day. When I was a teacher at the middle school, lunchtime, everybody's like, I'm going to get something from the cafeteria. I'm like, are you kidding? There's a buffet at the Pizza Hut next door. I was obsessed with eating, and I could go to your house and I'd just eat normal like everybody else. And when we're done, we're like, y'all want to go to Dairy Queen? Y'all have Dairy Queen out here, right? Okay. Because I was like, I'd say something to somebody from like Alaska, and they're like, I never heard of it. Okay. Where are you at, bro? I'm just messing with you. Okay. Hey, yeah, okay. What's that? Oh, yeah, but you don't have a Zaxby's. Okay, so, or Chick-fil-A. I mean, come on, it's un-American. Have y'all know what a Chick-fil-A is? Not in Alaska. I think they have a salmon fillet. All right, that's a great joke. I just made it up. Okay. But here's the point. I was overwhelmed with my addiction to food. So much that I had reached 400 pounds. My A1C, which is your blood sugar level, is supposed to be 5.6. My A1C was 13. My bad cholesterol was supposed to be 75. It was like 150. I'm supposed to have like 120 over 60 for my blood pressure, and it was like 175 over 110. Here's what the doctor said. You're going to die. Whoa. He's like, you're in what's called the stroke zone. And what got me there? My hand. The medicine they put me on, you know what it did? It didn't like cure me of it made me so I can't eat like that at all. my right hand offended me and I had to cut it off. I don't go to buffets now unless I'm with a group of people that's where they chose to go. And I'm like, y'all are wasting your money. I'm not going to eat like that. Can't. And then when my A1C went down to 5.1 from 13, and my cholesterol went down to 75, normal. My blood pressure back down to normal. My weight under 300 pounds for the first time since 9th grade. I was afraid they were going to take me off of that medicine. You're afraid? This is why. Because I know that I'm enticed by Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Y'all know where that place is, right? Some of y'all like In-N-Out Burgers. But no, In-N-Out Burgers garbage. They don't have mayonnaise. Anyway, so y'all In-N-Out fans? Ask them if they have mayonnaise. They're like, no, we don't. I was like, well, you know what that makes you? They said, that makes us different. I said, no, that makes you stupid. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I just offended like 10 people, I'm sure. Anyway, the point is, here's the good news. And Dave, you're going to have to give me like a 5-minute thing because like right now I feel like I can preach for an hour. I'll preach to midnight, just like, well, what time is it right now? 9? It's midnight where I live. Okay, so almost. It's no, it is, right? Yeah, I'm 3 hours ahead. Okay, so listen. Then I should probably quit, right? No, I'm kidding. Okay. Here's where I want to go. There is a way out. Yes, it's my fault. Yes, I did this to myself. But there's a way out. And here it is. Y'all use GPS to get, who used GPS to get here today? Right? What y'all don't understand is when I first got my driver's license, my mom bought me an atlas. And some of y'all are like, what are you talking about? It's a giant book that's this big. And in it is a map of every road in the United States. And you had to find a city, you had to look at the coordinates. You got to go to 30 and then over to 10 and then meet it in the middle. And my mom got me a special atlas. Yeah, it had a little blue dot everywhere a Walmart was. It was awesome. Then the internet came. And they're like, hey, we got this thing called MapQuest. And some of y'all are like, what's MapQuest? It's like this. You type in your address where you are right now and the address where you want to go and hit directions and then hit print. And then you hope you don't get it out of order while driving down the interstate. And now, just like before, a woman is telling me how to drive. And those of, I thought that was a great joke too. But anyway, but there's a way out. And the GPS is the Holy Spirit. And he wants to provide you a way out. And we're going to land here, okay? 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13 says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. My temptation for food is no different than what, I don't have some stronger, I got to have food until I had to have it to maintain 400 pounds. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, now not if you are tempted, but when you are tempted, he will. Say he will. Come on, say he will. Also provide a way out so that you can endure it. There's a way out. He will always show you a door. Jeff Walling, was he here last time or yeah. When I'll never forget, and I have so many other things I want to say, but I'm going to end on this. I'll never forget he brought this young girl on stage at Winterfest. I mean, this is like 20 years ago. And first he said, I want to see who can climb this rock climbing wall the fastest. And, some boy runs up the stage. I can do it. And then he's like, all right, well, another boy come up here and all the girls start going, boo. He's like, you want me to get a girl? This is a setup, y'all. And they picked this random girl from the front row who happened to be world champion rock climber, like fastest in the world or something. And they go, ready, set, and she's like, ding, like she's like Spider-Man. It's like, what? You know? And so they brought her up and they asked her the question, like, what do you tell people? Like, what? And she said this, and I'll never forget this. I was just barely 30 years old and just, you know, getting ready to have a child and all that kind of stuff. And she said this in her interview. She said, you have to say no or you'll have no say. And I'm like, this is like a 15-year-old girl saying this is a mantra that she lives by. I'm going to have to say no or I'll have no say. Did you know you could say yes to something today that'll make you have no say for your life for the future? Or you can say yes to everything who is Jesus and you have your whole future in his hands. The question is, are you going to say no to sin? Are you going to say yes to guilt? Fall forward, y'all. Don't fall back. Fail forward. I have a failure all the time, but when I fail, I still return to the Father and say, I need your help. It's like this last thing I want to say, and I said that 3 things ago. But anyway, this donkey, this guy said he had to put out his donkey, and he asked his friend, will you put down the donkey? You know, and of course, if I was doing that, I'd be like, well, he's short. Anyway, he said, that was so bad. That was a quote from Ghostbusters. Anyway, I'm old. Get over it. Okay, so here we go. He says, would you put my donkey down? And he's like, man, okay, fine. And he didn't have the heart to shoot him, but for some reason he thought, I'll just bury it alive, which is worse, right? He digs this giant hole and he puts the donkey in the bottom. He starts shoveling dirt on it. You know what the donkey did? Shook off the dirt and stood on top of it. Every shovelful. Shook off the dirt, step on top of it. Shook off the dirt until he was ground level. And he just walked away. I love that story because that needs to be our faith story. Every failure, every trip, every problem, we don't fail and leave God because it wasn't him that did that to you. It was you that did that to you. And if you lean on Jesus, he's going to show you a way out and he's going to free you from the garbage that the world throws at you. Shake it off. Shake it off. Okay, you know what I'm saying? God bless you guys. Thank you so much.